Chosen one, God gave you one job from now on. Pay attention. When you are told that you have one job from now on, it does not mean your life becomes narrow or that your freedom is taken away. It means your attention becomes more intentional. It means that instead of scattering your energy across dozens of worries, comparisons, and distractions, you are being guided to protect and direct what truly shapes your future, your focus, your mindset, and your daily decisions. Many people think change begins when circumstances shift. But lasting change begins when attention shifts. What you consistently give your attention to is what you slowly become. Stay with this message until the very end, because each layer builds on the one before it, and clarity grows as you continue. And write your warmest wishes in the comments, and include the number 144 as a conscious act of intention and focused energy. This is a moment about awareness becoming action and belief becoming discipline. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves fully into responsibility, consistency, and learning how to guard what truly matters. Now, Chosen One, press the hype button like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Your one job going forward is not about chasing every opportunity or reacting to every problem. It is about learning how to remain grounded, focused, and emotionally regulated no matter what is happening around you. When your internal state is stable, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your outcomes change. This sequence is not dramatic, but it is powerful because it works quietly and consistently. Paying attention means noticing what drains you and what strengthens you. It means becoming aware of patterns that repeat and asking why they continue. It means recognizing when you are acting from fear instead of intention. This kind of awareness requires honesty, and honesty is the foundation of real growth. You may begin to notice that distractions feel louder when your focus starts sharpening. Things that once filled your time may suddenly feel empty or overstimulating. This is not because those things changed, but because your tolerance for noise is decreasing. When your mind begins to value clarity, chaos becomes uncomfortable. Your job is also to notice your reactions, not just what happens, but how you respond. Do you shut down when things feel uncertain? Do you rush when you feel pressure? Do you avoid when something feels uncomfortable? These reactions shape your future more than the situations themselves. Learning to pause before reacting is one of the most important skills you can develop. Paying attention also means noticing your internal dialogue. The way you speak to yourself influences how much effort you invest, how persistent you remain, and how you interpret setbacks. If your inner voice is harsh or hopeless, even good opportunities can feel heavy. When your inner voice becomes more supportive and realistic, challenges become manageable rather than overwhelming. Another part of this job is learning to manage your energy, not just your time. You may start recognizing when you are mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, or physically depleted. Instead of ignoring these signals, you begin adjusting your pace. Sustainable growth requires recovery, not constant pushing. You may also begin to notice that some worries are habits rather than necessities. The mind can stay busy even when nothing urgent is happening. Paying attention means learning to distinguish between real problems and mental noise. This skill protects your peace and improves your decision-making. Your job going forward also includes becoming more intentional about what you consume. Conversations, media, environments, and even thoughts. What you repeatedly take in shapes what you normalize. When you choose inputs that support clarity, stability, and growth, your mindset gradually follows. Paying attention means noticing small wins, not just big goals. Progress is built through daily consistency, not dramatic breakthroughs. When you recognize small improvements, you reinforce motivation and strengthen self-trust. Another part of this assignment is learning to tolerate discomfort without escaping. Growth often requires staying present when things feel awkward, uncertain, or slow. Avoidance delays development. Attention allows learning to happen. You may also notice that your patience is being tested in new ways, not because things are going wrong, but because you are learning to trust process rather than urgency. Waiting does not mean nothing is happening. Often it means foundations are strengthening. Paying attention also means recognizing when you are operating on autopilot. Habits are useful, but they can also keep you repeating patterns that no longer serve you. Awareness is what allows you to update old strategies and build better ones. Your job includes learning to listen to feedback from your own life. When certain results keep repeating, they are communicating something about behavior, boundaries, or expectations. Instead of feeling defeated, you begin asking what adjustments are needed. You may also begin to notice that your standards for how you treat yourself increase. You protect your rest. You follow through on commitments. You stop tolerating self-sabotaging habits. This self-respect supports long-term stability. Paying attention also means noticing emotional triggers. When certain situations consistently produce strong reactions, they point to areas that need healing or skill building. Awareness allows growth instead of repetition. Another part of your job is learning to simplify. Not everything deserves equal urgency or emotional investment. You begin prioritizing what truly moves your life forward and releasing what only creates noise. You may also start recognizing that clarity often comes after consistency, not before. You do not always feel motivated first. Sometimes you act, and clarity follows. Paying attention helps you notice this pattern and trust it. Your job going forward is also to recognize when you are growing. Growth does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels like increased responsibility, better boundaries, and quieter confidence. These are signs of strength, not stagnation. Paying attention means noticing when your mindset shifts from survival to stability. You think less about getting through and more about building forward. This transfer changes how you plan, save, learn, and relate to others. Another important part of this assignment is learning to protect your focus from constant interruption. Deep progress requires sustained attention. You may start creating more space for reflection, planning, and uninterrupted work. You may also notice that your tolerance for negativity decreases. Not because you ignore reality, but because you understand that constant negativity weakens motivation and clarity. You choose realism without hopelessness. Paying attention also means noticing when you are overcomplicating things. Sometimes the next step is simpler than your mind suggests. Awareness helps you separate real obstacles from imagined ones. Your job includes learning to trust gradual improvement. You stop expecting overnight change and begin respecting compounding effort. This mindset protects you from quitting too early. You may also notice that your sense of responsibility grows. You take ownership of your reactions, habits, and choices instead of blaming circumstances. This ownership is empowering, not heavy. Paying attention also means recognizing when you are emotionally overloaded and giving yourself permission to reset. Burnout does not produce clarity. Recovery does. Another part of your job is learning to stay present instead of constantly projecting into the future or replaying the past. The present is where your influence exists. You may also notice that your relationships begin to reflect your internal shifts. As you become clearer and more grounded, your interactions become more honest and balanced. Paying attention means noticing alignment. When things feel less forced and more natural, it often means your actions are matching your values. This alignment reduces stress and increases confidence. Your job going forward is not dramatic, but it is powerful. Stay aware, stay intentional, and protect your focus. Everything else builds on this foundation. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. Nothing is being taken from you by having one job. Something is being protected. Your attention is being redirected toward what actually shapes your future. When you learn to guard your focus, regulate your emotions, and choose with intention, your life begins to respond differently. This is not about control. It is about clarity. And clarity is what allows the next chapters of your life to unfold with strength, stability, and purpose. As this focus on attention continues, you may begin to realize that paying attention is not passive. It is an active skill that shapes how you experience every situation. When you are attentive, you notice subtle signals before they become problems. You sense when your energy is dropping, when your motivation is fading, when your boundaries are being tested. This awareness allows you to respond early instead of reacting late. You may also notice that your priorities start reorganizing themselves. What once felt urgent may no longer feel important. What once felt optional may now feel essential. This shift is not random. It is your values becoming clearer. When values are clear, decisions require less emotional debate. Another sign that you are living out this one job is that you begin questioning automatic habits. You ask yourself why you do certain things, not just how. You become curious about patterns that repeat. Curiosity is powerful because it opens the door to change without shame. You may also notice that your tolerance for mental clutter decreases. Constant notifications, endless scrolling, and chaotic schedules feel more draining. You begin seeking quieter spaces, longer stretches of focus, and more intentional routines. This is not withdrawal from life. It is engagement with life at a deeper level. Paying attention also means becoming aware of how stress affects your thinking. Under stress, the mind tends to narrow, rush, and assume worst-case scenarios. When you notice this happening, you can slow yourself down instead of letting fear drive decisions. This ability to regulate under pressure protects both relationships and long-term plans. You may also start recognizing that not every emotion requires immediate action. Feelings provide information, but they do not always provide instructions. Learning to feel without instantly reacting is one of the strongest forms of self-control you can develop. Another part of this assignment is learning to notice what gives you energy, not just what takes it. You may discover that certain activities, conversations, or environments leave you feeling clearer and more motivated. Paying attention helps you build more of those into your life. You may also find that your patience with shallow goals decreases. You are less interested in quick wins that do not contribute to long-term stability. You begin thinking in terms of systems rather than shortcuts. This mindset supports lasting progress. Paying attention also means recognizing when you are avoiding something important. Avoidance often hides behind busyness. When you slow down enough to notice what you are postponing, you gain the chance to address it directly. You may also notice that your self-talk becomes easier to observe. Instead of being completely inside your thoughts, you start noticing them as patterns. This distance allows you to challenge unhelpful beliefs and replace them with more realistic ones. Another shift is how you handle disappointment. You pay attention to the lesson instead of staying stuck in the emotion. You reflect on what can be adjusted rather than replaying what went wrong. This learning orientation keeps growth active. You may also find that your sense of time changes. You become more aware of how quickly weeks and months pass. This awareness motivates more intentional use of your days rather than waiting for someday to arrive. Paying attention also includes recognizing when you are overextending yourself. You notice when your schedule becomes unsustainable or when you are saying yes out of habit rather than alignment. This awareness helps you protect your capacity. Another part of your job is noticing what you are tolerating. Situations that drain you, environments that undermine your confidence, or habits that keep you stuck often persist because they go unquestioned. Attention brings choice back into those areas. You may also notice that your emotional awareness becomes more precise. Instead of just feeling bad or stressed, you identify whether you are tired, disappointed, overwhelmed, or uncertain. This clarity helps you respond more effectively. Paying attention also means observing your progress honestly. You recognize growth without exaggeration and setbacks without harsh judgment. This balanced self-assessment supports steady improvement. You may also find that your motivation becomes more internal. You are less influenced by praise or criticism and more guided by your own standards. This independence strengthens consistency. Another shift is how you experience waiting. Waiting no longer feels like wasted time. You use quieter periods to prepare, learn, and strengthen habits. This productive patience builds readiness. Paying attention also means noticing when you are operating on autopilot. You interrupt routines that no longer serve your goals. You update habits as your priorities evolve. This adaptability prevents stagnation. You may also become more aware of how your environment affects your mood and focus. You adjust lighting, noise, schedules, and even social exposure to support clarity. These small changes can have powerful effects on mental state. Another part of this assignment is learning to notice when you are reacting to old fears rather than current reality. Past experiences can shape present decisions without you realizing it. Attention helps separate what is happening now from what happened before. You may also notice that your sense of responsibility becomes calmer and more confident. You stop seeing responsibility as burden and start seeing it as influence. Influence over your habits, your health, your learning, and your future. Paying attention also involves noticing when you are chasing certainty instead of building capacity. Certainty is rare. Capacity is developable. When you focus on strengthening skills and stability, uncertainty becomes less threatening. You may also find that your communication improves because you are more aware of what you truly feel and need. You express yourself more clearly and listen more carefully. This improves both personal and professional relationships. Another shift is how you manage expectations. You stop expecting constant excitement and start appreciating steady progress. This realistic outlook protects motivation. Paying attention also means noticing when you are growing tired and honoring the need for recovery. Rest becomes part of your strategy rather than something you delay until exhaustion forces it. You may also become more aware of how small choices compound. A single decision may feel insignificant, but repeated patterns shape outcomes. This awareness increases intentionality in daily habits. Another part of your job is recognizing that attention is not only about noticing problems. It is also about noticing opportunities, alignment, and growth. When you are attentive, you catch moments that support progress. You may also notice that your sense of control shifts. You stop trying to control everything and start controlling what you can. Effort, attitude, preparation, and boundaries. This realistic control reduces stress. Paying attention also means recognizing when you are emotionally flooded and giving yourself time before responding. This pause prevents unnecessary conflict and regret. You may also find that your self-trust grows as you notice yourself responding more thoughtfully. Each regulated response reinforces confidence in your ability to handle challenges. Another shift is how you interpret pressure. Pressure becomes a signal to organize and prioritize, not to panic. This response keeps you functional during demanding periods. Paying attention also includes noticing when you are drifting away from your values and gently correcting course. This ongoing alignment protects integrity. You may also notice that your tolerance for self-sabotage decreases. When you catch yourself repeating old patterns, you interrupt them sooner. This self-interruption is a powerful sign of growth. Another part of your assignment is learning to observe your emotional cycles. You recognize when you are more sensitive, more motivated, or more tired. This awareness helps you plan more effectively. Paying attention also means recognizing when your confidence is increasing, even if circumstances have not changed dramatically. Internal stability often grows before external results appear. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes less about big declarations and more about daily choices. You understand that direction is built through consistency, not dramatic moments. As this second part settles, understand this. Paying attention is not about becoming hyper-vigilant or overly self-critical. It is about becoming present, intentional, and responsive instead of reactive and distracted. This skill strengthens every other area of your life because it gives you access to choice. When you are attentive, you can adjust. When you can adjust, you can grow. And when you grow with awareness, your future becomes something you are actively shaping, not something you are passively waiting for. As this awareness becomes more natural, you may begin to notice that your sense of responsibility becomes steadier rather than heavier. You no longer see responsibility as something that restricts you, but as something that gives you direction. When you know what matters, you stop wasting energy on what does not. This clarity simplifies your life in ways that create more freedom, not less. You may also notice that your reactions to setbacks continue to soften. Instead of interpreting obstacles as signs that you are off track, you begin to see them as part of the refinement process. You adjust strategy instead of abandoning effort. This adaptability keeps momentum alive even when progress feels slow. Another important shift is how you handle emotional discomfort. You no longer rush to escape feelings through distraction, avoidance, or impulsive decisions. You stay present long enough to understand what the emotion is signaling. This emotional literacy improves decision-making and prevents unnecessary conflict. You may also find that your sense of self-trust continues to strengthen. Each time you respond thoughtfully instead of reactively, you reinforce the belief that you can handle complexity. This confidence does not come from certainty about outcomes, but from confidence in your ability to navigate whatever arises. As paying attention becomes a habit, you may notice that your focus improves. You can stay with tasks longer without feeling restless. You complete what you start more consistently. This follow-through builds both skill and credibility, which opens doors that motivation alone cannot. You may also experience a shift in how you approach goals. Instead of setting goals based on pressure or comparison, you choose goals that align with your values and capacity. This alignment increases satisfaction and reduces burnout. Another sign of growth is how you manage expectations of yourself. You challenge yourself to grow, but you no longer demand perfection. You correct mistakes without turning them into identity judgments. This balanced self-discipline supports long-term improvement. You may also notice that your ability to tolerate uncertainty continues to increase. You are less dependent on having everything mapped out before moving forward. You trust that clarity often emerges through action, not before it. As your internal regulation improves, your communication during tense moments may also become calmer and clearer. You express concerns without escalating. You listen without immediately defending yourself. This emotional maturity strengthens relationships and reduces misunderstandings. You may also find that your standards for how you spend your time rise. You become more selective about commitments, conversations, and entertainment. You choose activities that restore or build rather than simply distract. Another shift is how you relate to pressure from others. You listen to advice and expectations, but you do not automatically obey them. You evaluate what aligns with your priorities. This independence strengthens self-respect and decision-making. You may also notice that your emotional recovery time shortens. Stressful events no longer derail you for as long. You process, reset, and re-engage more efficiently. This resilience preserves momentum. As attention sharpens, you may also become more aware of your physical needs. You notice how sleep, nutrition, and movement affect mood and focus. You begin treating your body as part of your productivity and emotional stability, not separate from it. You may also experience increased patience with learning curves. You accept that mastery requires repetition and feedback. You stay committed even when progress feels slow. This patience protects long-term development. Another sign of alignment is how you handle comparison. You are less reactive to others' success or timelines. You focus on your own consistency and improvement. This self-referenced progress builds confidence. You may also notice that your curiosity grows. You want to understand how things work, how systems can improve, and how you can develop new skills. This curiosity supports adaptability and innovation. As your sense of responsibility matures, you may also experience increased willingness to take initiative. You do not wait for perfect instructions. You act where you see opportunity to contribute. This proactive behavior creates new pathways. You may also find that your relationship with rest becomes more intentional. You rest before exhaustion forces you to. This proactive recovery supports clarity and prevents burnout. Another important shift is how you handle mistakes in public or professional settings. You remain composed, correct errors, and continue forward. This confidence protects reputation and self-respect. You may also notice that your emotional boundaries become stronger. You care about others, but you do not absorb their stress or expectations as your own. This boundary clarity preserves mental health. As you continue paying attention, you may also become more aware of long-term patterns in your life. You recognize cycles that repeat and begin actively changing them. This pattern awareness allows deep transformation rather than surface-level change. You may also experience increased comfort with simplicity. You stop complicating situations unnecessarily. You focus on clear next steps rather than overthinking distant outcomes. Another shift is how you interpret success. Success becomes less about external applause and more about internal alignment and consistency. This definition supports sustainable fulfillment. You may also find that your sense of timing improves. You recognize when to push and when to pause. You avoid forcing outcomes prematurely. This rhythm protects energy and decision quality. As internal stability strengthens, your reactions to criticism may also become less defensive. You evaluate what is useful and release what is not. This openness supports learning without harming confidence. You may also notice that your trust in gradual progress deepens. You stop expecting dramatic overnight change. You respect compounding effort. This mindset prevents discouragement. Another important development is how you manage conflicting desires. You prioritize long-term well-being over short-term comfort more consistently. This self-control strengthens stability. You may also experience increased clarity about what kind of life you are actually building, not just what you are chasing. This awareness shapes more meaningful goals. As your assignment continues to guide you, you may also feel more comfortable saying no to paths that do not align, even if they look attractive on the surface. This discernment protects focus. You may also notice that your emotional reactions during uncertainty are calmer. You remain present rather than catastrophizing. This emotional steadiness supports better judgment. Another shift is how you manage internal pressure to always be productive. You allow space for rest and reflection without guilt. This balance supports creativity and clarity. You may also find that your confidence in your own judgment increases. You trust your evaluations and decisions more readily. This self-trust reduces indecision and regret. As this third part settles, understand this. Paying attention is no longer something you have to remind yourself to do. It is becoming part of how you move through life. This awareness is shaping your habits, your choices, and your emotional responses in ways that quietly strengthen your future. You are no longer drifting through days on autopilot. You are actively participating in how your life is built. And that participation, consistent, intentional, and grounded, is what allows meaningful change to take root and continue growing long after motivation fades. As this attentiveness continues to mature, you may begin to notice that your sense of inner stability becomes more reliable even when external circumstances fluctuate. You are not as easily thrown off balance by sudden changes, unexpected delays, or shifting expectations. Instead of feeling like every disruption threatens your progress, you start seeing change as something you can work with. This flexibility allows you to keep moving forward without constantly feeling overwhelmed. You may also notice that your emotional responses become more proportional to situations. Small problems no longer trigger big reactions. You conserve your emotional energy for what truly matters. This emotional efficiency protects your mental health and improves your ability to think clearly when decisions are required. Another important shift is how you experience confidence. It becomes quieter and less dependent on reassurance from others. You do not need constant validation to feel secure in your direction. This self-contained confidence allows you to take responsibility without feeling exposed or uncertain. You may also find that your focus on improvement becomes more methodical. Instead of trying to change everything at once, you concentrate on one or two key areas at a time. This targeted approach produces deeper, more lasting progress. As awareness strengthens, you may notice that your tolerance for internal excuses decreases. You catch yourself when you rationalize procrastination or avoidance, not with harshness, but with clarity. You recognize that honesty with yourself is essential if growth is to continue.